back to Transformers for people with problems. Today's problem is Ratchet. G1 Ratchet is what happens when you give the medic a gun and tell him to smile through it. He's the Autobot doctor, the guy who fixes everyone else's bad decisions, and the only one keeping the team from falling apart faster than the toys did. And his toy, a Diaclone import originally piloted by a tiny human figure. Hasbro saw the empty seat and went, "Yeah, that's a face now, ship it!" So Ratchet's head is basically a windshield in poor decision-making, the only Autobot whose personality is interpretive licensing error, and somehow when he transforms, he becomes an ambulance that looks like a sad ice cream van! In the cartoon, he's cheerful, always helping, always optimistic, always getting shot. The war's emotional support van, fine until he isn't. Then Transformers the movie 1986 happens, and they don't just kill him, they execute him straight up, shot in the chest on screen and dropped like spare parts. No farewell, no music, just the medic, the literal healer, treated like background debris. But in the comics, early Marvel Ratchet is iconic. He's the last one standing, the entire Autobot army offline, and it's up to him, the Doctor, to save them. His big heroic duel isn't with Megatron, it's with a mechanic, a regular human in overalls who hates robots, and somehow Ratchet still almost loses, because of course he does, he's fighting Burnout with a toolbox! That's Ratchet. The doctor, the martyr, the exhausted parent of a war that never ends. He fixes everyone, nobody fixes him. Oh, it's a violation of the soul! Right? Put it on the shelf. Pretend everything's fine. Welcome back to Transformers for people with problems. Today's problem is Ultra Magnus, the Autobot who is absolutely trying his best and very clearly not coping. Ultra Magnus is built for responsibility, but also not prepared for responsibility. He has the energy of a man who studied for a practical test and turned up for a written test. Across the franchise, Magnus keeps reinventing himself, and somehow every version is still having a difficult day. In the cartoon, he's a stressed middle manager promoted during an apocalypse, and he never stops looking for the complaint form. In the original comic, he's actually competent, which only makes the constant misery feel even more earned. And in the IDW comics, he's not even one guy. He's a job title that keeps killing the people who take it, which feels uncomfortably accurate for him. In vehicle mode, he's a truck towing the armor he'll eventually wear. Ultra Magnus carries his own burden in the most literal way possible. The movie, they hand him the Matrix, and he reacts like someone being handed a baby at a party. No, thank you, I'm not qualified for that. Ultra Magnus is the only Autobot who can lose a fight, just by being emotionally unprepared for it. He isn't weak, he's overwhelmed. He's all of us trying to follow the manual, while the universe is on fire. So yes, Ultra Magnus, duty, stress, shoulders full of guilt and hinges. Right, put it on the shelf. Pretend everything's fine. Welcome back to Transformers for people with problems. Today's problem is E-Hobby G1 Sunstorm, a character who appeared for 5 seconds in the background and somehow decided he was the Messiah. He's a seeker, yes, but not like Starscream, dramatic, or Thundercracker, tired of this shit, or Skywarp should probably not be allowed near animals. Sunstorm walks in glowing industrial hazard orange and says, "The sun talks to me." The G1 Hobby toy looks like someone discovered the saturation slider and just kept going. He's bright enough to heat a room, loud enough to cause migraines, and 100% convinced he's the protagonist. The lore tried to explain him by giving him solar energy hallucinations, which is just a polite way of saying he is having a very intense religious experience at all times. Sunstorm is Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, but in jet form. A background extra who manifested main character energy through sheer radioactive confidence. And yes, I bought him because nothing says collector like owning a toy of a character who barely exists. Right, put it on the shelf. Pretend everything's... Welcome back to Transformers for people with problems. Today's problem is Galvatron, the Decepticon who is technically an upgrade, but spiritually, he needs a checkup from the neck up. Galvatron is Megatron after a rough week, a cosmic rebirth, and several untreated issues. The original toy is huge, chrome, gray, and purple, and came with electronics that sounded like a microwave begging for mercy. The e-hobby repaint, even shinier, even angrier, looks like something you'd find in a tomb labeled "Do Not Disturb." It screams. Then there's Titan's Return, a figure so cursed they had to give him a mask because they knew the real face wasn't coping. The torso, hollow, the cannon, wobbly, the vibes, Megatron but bought from Wish. Titan's Return, Galvatron transforms, but emotionally he falls apart halfway through. Next we have Generations Galvatron, a very promising design, ruined by arms that look like they were attached as a practical joke. He permanently poses like he's saying, "Ah, brilliant, the arms are wrong. Fantastic work, everyone." Then along comes DX9 Tyrant, the Galvatron you buy when you've accepted that retail figures can no longer help you. Tall, menacing, jointed like a gymnast with anger issues. He looks incredible, but also like he's silently judging the rest of your shelf. Pick him up and you instantly think, "Oh right, this is what Galvatron should have been." But then, Generation Selects rolls in and says, "What if Galvatron, but actually gorgeous?" The G1 Toy Deco repaint, chrome, metallics, unapologetic purple. Looks like the cartoon, the toy, and your overdraft all at once. Then the Unicron Transformation Deco, full cosmic gradient meltdown mode, purple and white into "I have been reborn by a planet. And now everything is everyone else's problem." In the cartoon, he screams, destroys cities, and has the emotional stability of a wasp in a bottle. In the comics, even worse, a time-traveling, dimension-hopping purple disaster whose only consistent trait is rage-based decision-making. Galvatron isn't evil. Galvatron is nuttier than squirrel shit with a cannon mode. So yes, Galvatron Megatron 2.0, patch notes unclear, stability questionable, right? Put it on the shelf. Pretend everything's fine. Welcome back to the worst kind of schlock, viewer verified, free floored approved. Hot take: Rodimus Prime was a far more interesting multi-layered character than Optimus Prime ever was. Optimus is iconic, the noble leader, the perfect dad, the robot equivalent of a motivational poster. But Rodimus is relatable. He's messy, insecure, overwhelmed, and thrust into a job he never actually wanted. Optimus leads with certainty. Rodimus leads with imposter syndrome, caffeine, and the emotional stability of someone searching, "Am I qualified for my job?" at 3 a.m. Optimus gets to be right. Rodimus gets to be human. He doubts himself, he fails, he overthinks, he breaks under the weight of legacy and keeps going anyway. That's more compelling than perfection ever was. In G1 Season 3, he's essentially a young hero forced into a midlife crisis with zero support. And in IDW, he becomes one of the richest, funniest, most psychologically complex leaders in the franchise, a chaotic, charismatic disaster who grows despite himself. Rodimus doesn't represent authority, he represents becoming, progress, struggle. The messy middle part of being a person. Optimus is the ideal. Rodimus is the journey. Right, put that in the comments. And prepare for war. Hot take. Everyone says killing Optimus Prime was where G1 started to fall apart. But that wasn't the real mistake. That was just Hasbro doing a little corporate spring cleaning. The actual structural collapse happened when they killed Starscream, because Optimus was the heart. But Starscream was the pulse. He was the chaos engine, the drama generator, the internal antagonist that kept the Decepticons from turning into a standing committee. You remove Starscream and what's left? Megatron shouting. Shockwave quietly filing spreadsheets. Soundwave nodding like a depressed metronome, and the Constructicons unionizing. Without Starscream, the Decepticons don't feel dangerous. They feel like a weekly operations meeting with laser guns and worse management. And yes, Season 3 tried to replace him with Galvatron, but Galvatron is pure, unfiltered, radioactive madness. He isn't chaos. He's a medical condition. Now imagine if they'd kept both. Starscream, petty scheming, allergic to responsibility. Galvatron, a violent purple migraine with legs. Together, unstoppable, a double act of narrative entropy that would have turned every episode into an HR violation waiting to happen. Starscream creates problems, Galvatron supercharges them. Season 3 wouldn't have just been watchable, it would have been legendary. So no, the real disaster wasn't killing Optimus Prime. The moment G1 truly flatlined was when they took out the one guy holding the whole franchise together with drama, spite, and aerodynamic backstabbing. Right, put that in the comments and let the arguments begin. This is Transformers for people with problems! Today's problem is Prowl, the Autobot who transforms into a police car, but emotionally transforms into a tactical manual that never got authorized for public release. Prowl represents logic, discipline, and the unwavering belief that everything would run better if everyone just did things his way. In the G1 cartoon, Prowl is calm, precise, dependable, right up until the 1986 movie vaporizes him in one of the most abrupt exit interviews ever filmed. No ceremony, no farewell, just boom. Prowl has been removed from the meeting. And the toys, they paint a very clear picture. G1 Prowl is a gorgeous Datsun fair lady, bolted to a robot mode that looks like it was designed by someone who values symmetry over emotional warmth. Masterpiece Prowl is everything he should be. Sleek, restrained, and permanently posed like he's about to explain why your plan is inefficient. Earthrise Prowl is crisp, modern, and radiates the energy of someone who files mission reports at 4 a.m. because no one else will do it properly. IDW Prowl is a tactical genius with the emotional intelligence of a fax machine, a man who solves problems with strategy, cold logic, and occasionally other people's free will. He doesn't do friendship, he does acceptable loss parameters. He's the Autobot who sees a moral dilemma and immediately asks, is there a version of this where I win and nobody realizes I caused it? Prowl isn't evil. He's just operating on a higher and significantly more annoying plane of thinking. In every continuity, Prowl is the same flavor of difficult, smart, useful, indispensable, and somehow the last person you'd ever want to have a beer with. So yes, Prowl, logic on wheels, strategy with headlights, and the only Autobot whose alt mode isn't a car, it's a warning sign. Right, put it on the shelf. Pretend everything's Welcome back to Transformers for people with problems. Today's problem is Trailbreaker, the Autobot who is secretly one of the most powerful members of the team and somehow convinced he's deadweight. Trailbreaker's force fields are absurd, city level, battle saving, plot breaking. He could turn an entire battlefield into a safe bubble and then apologize for being in the way. Because here's his whole deal. His abilities burn through a ridiculous amount of fuel, so he's constantly convinced he's a burden. He doesn't want to slow the team down, take up resources, or take up space. Trailbreaker is the Autobot equivalent of, I'm big, I'm tired, and I'm sorry for existing. In the cartoon, he barely gets any lines. He's the friendly background guy. You only notice the moment he saves everyone, and then quietly steps back like he's afraid of being seen twice. But the bios and comics pull no punches. Trailbreaker struggles with low self-esteem, loneliness, feeling useless, and the fear he's more trouble than he's worth. And it gets to him hard. He gets so depressed about needing too much fuel and feeling like a drain on the team that he starts drinking to cope. Energon, recreationally, not for fun, but because it makes the world hurt a little less. It's heartbreaking because it's so human. And then there's IDW, which gives him one of the roughest exits in the franchise. Not glorious, not heroic, just sudden, unfair, and it stings precisely because he deserved one good thing. And the toys, they capture every angle of him. G1 Trailbreaker is a chunky, charming unit, pure vintage heft with a soft heart. Generations Earthrise Trailbreaker is modern, clean, and still radiates sorry if I'm in the way energy. And then there's X-Transbots Aegis, the third-party glow-up so handsome it feels like Trailbreaker finally got the self-esteem boost he desperately needed. Sleek sculpt, gorgeous proportions, and easily one of the best Trailbreaker figures ever made. Trailbreaker isn't bland, he's painfully relatable. He's the hero who thinks he's the problem, even when he's the literal shield keeping everyone alive. So yes, Trailbreaker, force fields of legend, self-worth of a wet napkin, a hero you don't notice until it's too late, and miss far more than you'd expect. Right, put it on the shelf, pretend everything's fine. back to Transformers for people with problems. Today's problem is HasLab. For the uninitiated, HasLab is Hasbro's crowdfunding platform. They announce a massive collector toy, too expensive for retail, and say if enough of you pay in advance, we'll make it. If it doesn't hit the target, it never exists. In theory, it's community-driven. In practice, it's emotional blackmail with branding, because this isn't crowdfunding, it's crowd-threatening. Back it now, or it's gone forever! That's not marketing. That's a hostage situation with a payment plan. HasLab takes something you love, dangles it over a pit, and says, wouldn't it be a shame if this dream project didn't make it? It's nostalgia weaponized by accounting, the illusion of exclusivity, the promise that this massive, expensive, limited thing will finally be the definitive version. But you know the truth. You'll back it. You'll wait 18 months, it'll arrive, and within a week there'll be guides on how to fix one of its quality control flaws on YouTube. It's not about toys anymore. It's about validation through manufactured rarity. It's gambling, except the prize is something you'll feel guilty opening. They tell you it's by the fans. For the fans. No. It's by the accountants for the emotionally compromised. We used to save up for toys because we wanted them. Now we back them because we're afraid not to. That's HasLab, a system built on the quiet panic of missing out on closure. Right, put it on the shelf, pretend everything's fine. Hey, welcome back to Transformers for people with problems. Today's problem is the hoard, not the display, not the collection, not the curated shelf that makes you look like a stable adult. I mean the cupboards, the wardrobes, the plastic tubs under the bed, the Fortress Maximus-sized mass of stuff you absolutely do not interact with. Every collector has a cupboard of shame. It's where toys go to wait for a future that never comes. Someday I'll display that. Someday I'll rearrange the shelves. Someday I'll need this. But someday never arrives, because the hoard isn't about future plans. It's about emotional storage. Half the toys you own aren't for now. They're for the person you used to be. The person who needed to feel chosen. The person who needed a treat. The person who was lonely at 2 a.m. with eBay open. The hoard is a museum of every version of you that bought something to feel okay. And you don't get rid of it. Not because you want it, but because letting go feels like erasing the version of yourself who needed it. It's not clutter. It's emotional sediment, layer after layer of I'll deal with this later. And the worst part, you don't even hate the hoard. You're just scared of what it says about you. Scared that if you opened every cupboard, you'd realize how much of your life you spent holding on to things because you didn't know how to hold on to yourself. That's the hoarding problem. It's not about space. It's about all the versions of you you're still protecting, the ones you're afraid to disappoint by letting go. Right, close the cupboard. Pretend everything's fine.